Hello everybody and welcome to the MetaMask SDK Linea workshop. Today we're going to be taking a look at a full stack React dApp. It's going to be using the MetaMask SDK, Infura, Hardhat, and deploying to Linea. My name is Eric Bichard and I am the Developer Relations Manager at MetaMask, and you can reach me on Twitter, Telegram, GitHub, lens.eth, @HTTPjunkie. My DMs are always open. The DevRels are the front door for you to any of the consensus products. Let's go ahead and get started. So the MetaMask SDK, there's a few reasons you might be here watching this video. You might just be interested in using the SDK or deploying to Linea, trying to figure out how to build a React dApp with something like Hardhat. Or you might be getting into one of our hackathons out at the ETHGlobal or one of the other conferences that we're doing. Either way, I'm keeping this repo up to date and always doing these new videos to show you how to use the MetaMask SDK in its current form, the most recent versions. Right now it's in a developer preview. We will show you a few of the different packages that you can use for the SDK. There's different ways to use it. We have 3 different branches in this repo. I'm really excited to kind of show you that. But what is the MetaMask SDK? The easiest way to think of it right now in kind of its developer preview form is that it's your user's way to connect to MetaMask extension or MetaMask mobile through your dApp. So it's pretty easy to install into your application depending on kind of how deep you want to go or how much functionality you want to create around it. It's pretty easy. You import it in, you instantiate the SDK, and anytime that you call ETH_request accounts, in other words, try to connect to the MetaMask extension, your users are going to get the option of connecting to the extension or MetaMask mobile. So that's really cool. It's a really simple way to make sure that your users can connect to both of them, no matter whether they have their MetaMask on a phone or whether they have the MetaMask in a browser. So here are a few links that are great for this presentation here. We have the first tiny URL is to the repo where you can find all the code for this demo. The second URL here is for the slides that we're looking at now. The third URL is a more detailed video from Emily, who's one of our DevRels on Linea, to show you how to get started with Linea, but also kind of what Linea is. So we're also going to go over Linea very briefly in this presentation and then get right to the demo. Finally, we have our docs.metamask.io/SDK where you can find all of the docs on SDK and all of its many flavors. We're going to be focusing on the JavaScript SDK today and a few others. But you could also use the SDK for Unity, iOS, Android, React Native. You could build an Electron project with it. So there's lots of different ways to use the SDK on the platform that you choose. So the basic agenda is that we're going to have a demo app that we're going to be looking at. We're going to review Linea. We're going to review the basics of the SDK and that project. When it gets to the project, the demo part, we're going to clone down the workshop, install the dependencies, configure the environment variables, review the different workspaces in this mono repo that we have, and then we're going to build, deploy out to Linea, and then test our front-end application, make sure that we can mint the NFTs inside the application, and make sure that the interactions with wallet state and sync, etc. work. So here's a little preview of what the workshop looks like. It's a contrived demo for sure. Most demos are, but that's so that we can get straight to the point, show you how to use the SDK and these various technologies together without putting a lot of other fluff into the demo. But basically you have this tickets page where you can mint a general admission or a VIP ticket. You can click a connect button to be able to connect to MetaMask extension or mobile. Once you're connected, you have the ability to display information about the user, make sure that you keep your application state in sync with the wallet state, etc. When you click that connect button using the SDK, this is the modal that you'll be prompted with. So no matter whether you're using the regular SDK, we have some React components. You can also use it with Web3 onboard and potentially a few other convenience libraries out there soon. But once you click the connect button, instead of going directly to the extension, it gives you an option. Do you want to connect to desktop or mobile? And if you choose mobile, you can pull out your phone as long as you have MetaMask on it, open up the QR scanner, scan that, and it will connect you in the background to your dApp, which is a really great thing to be able to do for your users. Once you get connected and once you mint some tickets in this application, you'll see that you have some stuff up here at the top. We can tell you, the user, whether they're connected to the extension or mobile. This is less something that you'd probably want to provide in your app, but more something as a developer you're going to want to know. There might be something you want to do differently if they're connected to extension or mobile. I can show you a few of the reasons why you might want to do that, but for the most part, whether they're connected to extension or mobile, it's pretty much the same experience. You work with the same window.ethereum object underneath the hood, which is pretty cool. It'll show what chain they're connected to. We want them to be on Linea for this demo, but if they're connected to another chain, then we want to show a button there that allows them to switch over to the right chain. We're going to show their wallet address and the amount of balance that they have in their wallet for the ETH, considering the chain that they're connected to. Here you see the two different mint buttons for the general admission and the VIP tickets. This is for a fictitious event called ETH Atlantis, the best Ethereum conference under the sea. So it's not real. And then down here, once they mint a ticket, we also want to be able to give them some visual cues to show that, hey, you just minted a ticket, or you've minted another ticket. We want to show those tickets at the bottom. And how we're achieving that is we're calling into the contract, and we're basically getting the code for the SVG, the token ID, and then calling another method to be able to present that to them in the front-end application. So pretty cool. Linea. So what is Linea? So Linea is a type 2 ZK rollup. It's not a layer 1, so it's a layer 2. So it's a separate blockchain that increases transaction speed and throughput while partially deriving its security from the Ethereum EVM, right? It pulls off that execution layer away from L1. They rely on Ethereum for data availability and post their transaction data back onto L1 Ethereum. Rollups are the most widely accepted implementation. You have optimistic rollups like Arbitrum, Optimism, and Base, and then you've got ZK rollups, or zero knowledge proof rollups, which are, Linea, ZK Sync, Polygon, ZK EVM, Scroll, and Starknet. So what is a ZK EVM? We're just going to briefly touch on it here. Again, if you go back to the beginning of the video, we have those links to where you can find out more. But it's a zero-knowledge Ethereum virtual machine. It executes smart contract transactions in a way that uses the existing Ethereum infrastructure in a way that ZK proofs can understand. So that kind of, the ZK proof thing, that happens behind the scenes, under the hood. It's not something as a developer you really need to know about. Just know that if you want to use Linea and this specific L2 ZK EVM, it's no different really than using Ethereum. It's an Ethereum equivalent. So yeah, it's basically, it gives you the ability to use the Ethereum infrastructure in a way that the proofer works by submitting programs that are translating into math, pretty much. It pulls out a Boolean, true or false, and then that's done by arithmetization, which is a difficult process. We're not going to go much into that because it's difficult. But again, that's all underneath the hood, not something you really have to know about. If you can deploy something onto Ethereum, if you can deploy something onto Polygon, then you can deploy something onto Linea. The code that you write in your smart contracts, you write it with Solidity, right? And for the most part, Linea supports all of the normal opcodes that you would be used to when writing in Solidity. There are a few edge cases. We're not going to go into all that. You can check out Emily's video and she can talk more about that. But basically, it's a type 2, and I said EVM equivalent. It's fully EVM equivalent. So the same things you can do in Ethereum with Solidity, you can do with Linea You don't have to change the way that you write your contracts. You don't have to change the tooling, none of that. Just deploy out to Linea. Anyways, it's probably not the best description of Linea. Other people can do it better, but it's definitely something to look into. The whole reason for using something like Linea, this type 2 ZK rollup layer 2, is to have cheaper gas transaction fees on the blockchain. And to be able to do it in a fully kind of EVM equivalent way. MetaMask SDK in a dApp. Basically, for your user, the way that it works is you have a connect button. We kind of determine whether there's a MetaMask extension or not, especially if they've already connected to SDK. If so, we'll connect them to the extension. If not, we'll show that QR code. That's if they've already connected before with extension. It'll kind of do this flow here. Otherwise, when they first use the SDK, what really happens is they click the connect button. You see that modal. They have the option of choosing extension or mobile, and it just gives them another option, another way of connecting to your dApp from extension or mobile. Here's a few references here. I'm not going to leave this up too much or too long. This is just our developer resources. There's an SDK guide here. You can find out all about our SDK. You can find out more about Linea and also about our MetaMask improvement proposal, a way to kind of, as a developer, part of the community, you can be part of changes in MetaMask. So I just wanted to throw those out there. And at this point, let's go ahead and get into the demo. So let me go ahead and minimize this. So the first link we showed earlier will go to this repo here, this React SDK Linea workshop. And from here, you can get the code that you would need in order to clone down this repo. And we're going to do exactly that. Before we get too far into this, I do want to show you really quickly, just on NPM, we have the regular MetaMask SDK and some basic docs here. You can find more docs on MetaMask.io, docs.metamask.io. The basic SDK is what we'll go over first, and then we will go over how to use the SDK React UI, which is basically a context provider that you can pull into React to kind of manage your wallet state. And we also give you a button that you can just drop in. So this is kind of the more complex way of using the SDK, the kind of roll your own, customize everything the way that you want to, which I really like. And then we have the React component, which you just basically pull in a provider and then drop in a button. Finally, we have the Web3 onboard MetaMask. So this is great because if you want to support multiple wallets, this is probably the direction you would want to go in. And we'll have examples of all three of these inside this repo. I think what I would point you to is these different branches we have here. So the ones that you want to pay attention to are these top three. These are the ones that are just work that we've been doing in the background. But we've got the main branch, which is kind of corresponds with this NPM package here, the MetaMask JavaScript SDK. Then we have the Add React UI Components branch, which would correspond to this React UI package. And then you have the Add Web3 Onboard, which would correspond with this NPM package here. Again, if you want to connect to multiple wallets, if you're not just connecting to MetaMask, I want to give your users that option of connecting to more than just MetaMask, then you can use something like that. And this one will just have a very basic example. Typically, if you want to use this, again, you want to connect to multiple wallets, or you're kind of familiar with Web3 onboard already. We won't go too deep into it, but we'll show you the very basics of what you need to know to kind of get all that set up. So again, we're going to start with the main branch here. We're going to copy, the GitHub and go open up a terminal so that we can do this. And look, I've already got it pasted in here. We're going to run git clone and then use that URL that we got from the repo. We'll go ahead and cd into react-sdk-linea-workshop and go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code. So once you get to this point, I think the best thing to do is obviously make this bar over here a little bit smaller. You want to take a look at the navigation bar over here on the left and open up this README. And what we're going to do is kind of full screen this, maybe even bump up our font size a little bit here. And definitely try to, if you really want to know as much as possible, read through this top section here. This just tells you a little bit about the project, why we set it up the way that we have. And we've been iterating this thing for, more than 6 months. So there's a lot of really good kind of practices in here, and we're continuing to make it better kind of every month. And every version of SDK that comes out, every new package that supports SDK, we try to fit in here as long as it's something that you can do in JavaScript and React. But what I would really suggest you start is through these steps. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps to kind of configuring, cloning down, configuring, building, deploying, and testing out this application. That if you just walk through this README, you're going to understand the entire project. And that's exactly what we're going to do here today. We're going to walk through all these steps and test the initial branch, and then we're going to kind of switch our branches to those other 2 versions and just show you the basic lay of the land so that you have an understanding of how to use the SDK in all 3 different scenarios. If you're in a hackathon, this video and this repo are going to be hugely helpful for you because it helps you kind of cut to the chase, get it installed very quickly, and move on to the other things that you're doing in your hackathon. So we've already ran these 2 commands here. We've already cloned it down. We've already done all that. So we want to run npm install next. So at the root of the application, we should be able to run npm install. And again, this is a monorepo. So we have this kind of blockchain directory and we have a web directory. By running npm install at the root, this is going to install packages at all 3 levels. So at the root, at the blockchain, and at the web workspace kind of folder directory. So we'll give that just a moment here. Our next step is going to be to create an Infura account. So if you don't have an Infura account already, and of course you could use something other than Infura, but Infura is a consensus product, so we're using that. So what I'm going to do real quick is go and copy my, let me go ahead and show you what I've done here. So when I come to Infura and I set up a free account, I can create a new API key. I can choose Web3 API, give it a name here, and then when I create it, I will have something like this ETH Atlantis demo. And I can grab this API key. So I want to go ahead and do that. Don't worry, this will be gone as soon as I create the workshop. So you won't be able to use this one. You'll need to set up your own. And let's head back over to the application here. So we have gone through the first few steps. We've got our node modules now set up in our web, our blockchain, and our root directory. And we've created an Infura Web3 API. We gave it a name. We copied the Infura API key. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into our blockchain folder in this environment variable here. We're going to copy this and basically paste it. And we're going to rename it to .env. And I think I just lost my Infura key there. I sure did. Go grab that again. Copy. So we're going to paste that here. And then over in our web directory, we want to do the same thing. So we're going to copy this. I'm going to paste it. And we're going to do the same thing. Now let me explain this file real quick. So this file, all that we're doing here is we're telling our front-end application what chain we want to run on. And I'm giving you the option of 2 different chains here to set up. You can set up Linea, you can set up Mumbai. We're going to go ahead and roll with Linea. We've already got that kind of here so that when we run the application, if your user's on any chain other than Linea, it's going to prompt them to switch over to the Linea chain, the Linea Gerli testnet, by the way. So good, we've got that done. I do need to actually put in my private key here, so I'm going to pull this off screen for a minute. I'm going to get that private key, and I'll show you how I do that. So we're going to go into account here. We're going to click on account details, and then there'll be a way to get that, that private key from inside there. So let me do that real quick. All right, so I've actually put my private key into this environment variable file here. I'm not going to show you that because, well, I don't want anyone to have my private key, and you don't want anyone to have your private key either. By renaming these environment variable files to .env, we have get-ignore files in here that will ignore those .envs. We have them kind of at the root level here. So this will ignore that, so it won't get uploaded to GitHub. Right? You never want to upload your environment variable, so your API key or private key or anything else that's kind of sensitive information like that. Where's our README at? Here it is. Okay, so we've done all this. We've kind of filled out our environment variable files. The next thing that I would kind of point out, and a big change in this workshop since the last time I recorded this, is that Truffle has been sunsetted. Truffle was a consensus product that pretty much did the same thing that Hardhat does. And Truffle was great. I really loved using it. But since it's been sunsetted, I am now rebuilding the entire workshop using Hardhat. So one thing I would point out is your Hardhat config, which I kind of showed right here. But it's located right here inside of your blockchain directory. And I've done the basic setup here in order to use type chain and Ether6. A few things I would point out is the Solidity version when working with Linea. Right now, it only supports up to 8.19 Solidity version, 0.8.19. I've also put a path so that my artifacts from building my contracts get saved out into my web directory right here inside of web source lib. Yeah, it'll show up here once I build. We'll see that. And then I've got my two networks set up. So I've got Mumbai and Linea testnet here, but know that you could copy one of these over and go to chainlist.org or something and find the information for another chain, and you could deploy to that one as well. If you did that, you would need to come over to your package.json and you would need to add a new deploy script, but you can see some examples of ones here already. So if you wanted to deploy to another chain and use this project as a starting point, you could totally do that. All right, let's get back to our README here. So again, this step is just like, hey, check this stuff out, make sure that you understand kind of what's going on here. Step 4 is kind of once you're logged into Infura, once you've got all this stuff done, you probably want to go get some Linea ETH, some Linea testnet ETH. So you can do that at the Infura faucet. Just go to this link once you're logged in, and you can get 0.5 per day every 24 hours. Next thing we want to do is run npm run build. So there's not really a lot of steps. Like, right, there's clone, install, set up your environment variables. If you've already got an API key from Linea, I'm sorry, from Infura, you're good to go. And then you're running npm run build. So what this is going to do is it's going to make sure that our contract code and our front end code, none of them have any errors or anything in them. This will also compile our contracts along with it. So it's kind of going to do both. It's going to compile our Hardhat, compile with Hardhat our Solidity contracts and check our code for us. So let's run that. Hope that there are no errors. If there's an error, it will show you right here and you'll be able to quickly go fix it. So it looks like we made it through, no errors. And let's also look now in our lib directory. You can see that we also have this artifacts folder. So there is some stuff going on in the project. So when we want to call a mint function or we want to call one of our public methods on our contract, well, we will need to import some of our ETH tickets basic ABI in order to access, in order to, with ethers, create a contract, kind of representation of our contract in TypeScript and be able to get full typings and everything on top of that. So that's why it's deployed there into our web directory, but you really don't have to know about that. You can dig into it a little bit more yourself if you want to. Cool, we've got the project built, we have the contracts compiled, and now we want to deploy to Linea testnet. Understand that this command won't work right here unless you went into your blockchain environment variables file and put in the API key and put in your private key, right? It uses that private key to deploy that contract. So you want to make sure that you've done that, or else this will not work. So let's go ahead and run this deploy for Linea. And what that's doing is it's using the hard hat configuration to know what basically what network we're using, the Linea, what chain. And look, it's deployed our contract pretty quickly. It's given us a contract address. And that contract address, we have a script that's run. Let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick. I just want to show you like everything that's going on, because this stuff takes a long time to set up. So we have this deploy script here that is going and kind of copying that contract address and shoving it into this config JSON. So this was empty right before we started. Right once we deployed, it added it there. So if I deployed to Mumbai right now, it would also add one right here, a contract address. So whatever the last contract that we deployed, it will add it to the correct config for that chain. If you added some more chains, again, you would also have to come in and update this config to have the other chain in there. Same thing would apply, right? All right. So finally, I think we're kind of at the last step here. This says to paste the contract address into there, but you don't have to. I've updated this README in the other branch, but I didn't update it here. This is done automatically for you. I didn't like the idea that you had to paste it in there, so we wrote a script to do it automatically. And at this point, we can run npm run dev testnet. I'll have this updated by the time someone watches this video. So we'll run npm run dev testnet. Now, what this command here is doing is it's going to run our front end project against the contract that we've just deployed, and also taking into consideration the chain that we've told it to work against, which is Linea. So we'll go ahead and run this command. And now we should get our React TypeScript project. And here it is. So great. I'm going to cancel this, and I'm going to do something really quick here. I want to make sure that I've probably run this 1,000 times, so I want to make sure that I'm just deleting any local storage so that it's not remembering any of my previous user sessions. And now I will click Connect MetaMask, and this is what your users would see for the first time. And we've got desktop or mobile that we can connect to. So let's try mobile first. We'll do both of them. So I'm going to open up MetaMask, and I'm going to connect using... So basically opening up MetaMask, let's see if we can see here. And then in the top right-hand corner, there is and I'm actually going to set this on a different chain too. I'm going to set it on, I don't know, something like Polygon mainnet before I connect, right? Because I want you to see something. I'm going to hit the scan button. I'm going to scan the QR code. It's going to give me this, and I'm going to hit connect, right? And now you can see that we've connected, but I'm on the wrong chain in my MetaMask wallet. So the application has figured that out. I built all this in for you so that you don't have to do this. So you have good examples of how to do these things. And it gives us a switch chain button, which is really cool. So if I click this, it's going to prompt me on my MetaMask mobile to switch networks. I'm going to click on that. And now we're on the correct chain. Now we can do more stuff. Cool. So that works. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm not connected to any sites in my mobile wallet by going to manage connections and just doing disconnect all. I think it kind of already did that for me. SDK just kind of works that way. And now we're going to connect to the desktop. So now we'll see it connecting to MetaMask extension. I'm going to select And you can't do this with mobile, but with extension you can. I'm going to select 2 different accounts because we want to test a few things out. We want to make sure that the way that we're using the SDK, the way that we're keeping our wallet state in sync with our application the way that we're keeping our wallet state in sync with our application state all works. So let's go ahead and connect both accounts. And again, it realizes that I'm on the wrong chain. Currently, I am on Mumbai, so that's not good. It wants to switch me over to Linea. Let's go ahead and do that. Perfect, everything updates, right? So some state just changed in my wallet and the application reacted to that. I'm gonna show you how that's all done in just a moment too. But at this point, let's go ahead and just test everything out real quick. So we want to mint a ticket. We're gonna mint a general admission ticket. And that will give me a confirmation here. I gotta wait a minute. All right, the transaction has completed. We now see our ticket there. If I were to mint another ticket over on the VIP side, it would give us, so notice we'll have 2 different color tickets here. We've got a blue ticket to represent general admission, and we've got a purple ticket to represent the VIP. Notice that these, you know, it's kind of contrived, but these are unique SVG NFTs, right? They have different numbers on them, which is the kind of token ID. They've got GA versus VIP. They have a date and they have a wallet address on them and a different colored gradient background. So what, you know, we have on-chain SVG NFT tickets that are unique, that are contracted generated, and would allow someone to gain access to, you know, our amazing ETH Atlantis event under the sea. One more thing I'm going to show you here, and we're going to go into the code in just a moment to see how all this works, but I can click this Add NFT button, and what we're doing right now is we're calling Wallet Watch Asset in the MetaMask API. So this has nothing to do with SDK, but it's something I wanted to show you. The way that this function, this RPC endpoint used to work was it was for adding tokens to your wallet that didn't already exist. Maybe you deployed some currency at an event, you know, like in ETH Denver, we did the Buffagway token that would get you access, get you food at the food trucks, right? But when people got those initial tokens in their wallet during registration, it didn't show up in the MetaMask wallet because MetaMask doesn't know what token that is. So this Wallet Watch asset was an RPC endpoint to be able to add a token to your wallet. Well, it's been updated recently to also work within NFTs, and it kind of makes sense, right? An NFT is kind of like a token also. You have to pass a few extra parameters, right? You got to tell it what contract address that NFT is deployed on and what chain it's deployed on. But otherwise, you know, it'll add the NFT to your wallet. So we can hit add NFT here. And if we go back and we look at our wallet and we go into the NFT section, we can see that our ETH ticket has been added here. If we add another one, let's go ahead and add this one. We can see that we now have 2 there. Yep, see, ETH tickets 2. Perfect. So with all of that out of the way, let's go dig into the code real quick. We're only going to dig into the nuts and bolts of how all this works in this application, because the next 2, I'm sorry, this branch, because the next 2 branches are going to be very similar to this branch. There's going to be different ways of using the SDK. So I'll try and go through this really quickly here, but we've got a bunch of components here. So if we go to our app.tsx page, we can see that we have this MetaMask context provider. So when using the regular JavaScript SDK, you have to do all this work on your own, right? So what is this MetaMask context provider? Well, that is a hook that we've created that basically keeps your wallet state in sync with your application. And this is just a React context provider. It watches all of the various events inside of the MetaMask wallet. And when we show you the next branch that has the MetaMask React UI, understand that this is all stuff that we've provided and wrapped up into a nice package for you. So it's interesting to look at this kind of custom version of it because it's very similar to what we've kind of wrapped up and packaged for you so that you don't have to do all this work on your own. This provider here is almost 200 lines of code, and I know that you probably don't want to write that. So by using the React UI components, which we're going to show next, you could save yourself kind of doing all this work. Here we can see the only really thing that we've done with the SDK in this application is we've imported the NPM package and we've installed it. We've imported it at the top of this file, and then we instantiate it here. Once this instantiation is done, anytime that you call ETH_request accounts, let's find that real quick. So anytime that you call this ETH_request accounts, you get that little modal pop-up that connects you to extension or mobile. If you didn't have SDK installed, when you called ETH_request accounts, it would only connect you to the extension. So that's what the SDK is. Now, what else do we have here? So in our app.tsx, we have, a kind of a wrapper around our entire application. We have a navigation, a display, and a MetaMask error. And the navigation it's fairly simple. We're pulling in our use MetaMask hook so that we can get access to our wallet and all these other kind of connect MetaMask SDK connected. You can grab all this stuff from this hook. And then we are conditionally rendering, to show whether they're connected to extension or mobile, to give them a button to be able to connect to MetaMask, to be able to display their chain information, to be able to display their address, or to be able to terminate the SDK connection, right? So that's our navigation file. You can go check that out on your own. We've got a MetaMask error component, which I'll show you in a moment. We got that switch network component, which is kind of aware of if you're on the right chain or not. And then we have tickets and tickets owned. Now, this is where we're going to be calling that mint NFT. So what we are doing is we are pulling in the ETH tickets JSON from the ABI. That's from our lib directory artifacts that our Hardhat built out for us so that we can get access to that contract ABI. And then we can use ethers to create a provider, a signer, and then to create a variable called NFT tickets where we're creating a new ethers contract where I can then do something like, let me just cut this out real quick. Now I've got, I can check in here. Let's see. There's my mint NFT right there, right? I can click on that. And, so I've got typing for all the methods on my contract, basically. I could call max supply from here. I could do a few other things. So this is our mint button inside of our tickets page. And the way that that's set up is we have this kind of mint ticket function. That's the majority of the complex code on this page. And then besides that, we map out the total number of tickets that we have, which is GA and VIP. And then our ticket types has, whether it's the GA or the VIP, we have a on-click mint ticket button, which accepts either 0.01 ETH or 0.02. And if we go look at our contract, that's kind of how we determine whether it's a VIP or a GA ticket. You also see in our contract, we have this wallet of owner function, which we're going to get to in a moment. And we have this mint function. Like those are the main ones that we call along with token URI. Those are like the three public functions on our contract that allow us to mint, allow us to get the tokens for the NFTs that a user with a certain address owns, or to be able to call the token URI function that will allow us to display that NFT on the page for our user. So with if we take a look at this section right here, I guess right here is the tickets component, and then down here is the tickets owned component. So we look at tickets owned. Basically same kind of thing, right? We want to get access to that contract. And here's our add NFT function, which allows us to, be able to add that NFT to the wallet. All it takes is a method, the method name, and then a few params. It needs to know it's a ERC 721 NFT. It needs to know the contract address that it's deployed to and the token ID for that specific NFT. That's all it needs to know. And it'll add that NFT to the wallet for your user. Outside of that, we have a wallet of owner function here, which we have a use effect. So what we want to happen is whenever the user first visits this page, or if they've already created tickets, minted tickets on this page, we want, when this component runs, to go and check wallet of owner. That's basically going to call into the contract and say, hey, my user has this wallet address, and I want to know if they've minted any tokens on this contract. If so, this will return. So this call right here will return the owned tickets that they have, and then what we'll do is we'll iterate through those and we'll push them into an array and then display them out on the page with this list of tickets right here. Right, so the list of tickets is this little component right here that basically just renders out a NFT for each one of the tickets, and we have an add NFT button on there. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I don't think there's anything else to really go over. We have this is supported network kind of function, which this was kind of hard to write, but this is what kind of helps us to make sure that they're on the right chain. We've got some CSS. That's not really anything to look at. Again, it's a very basic application. It's a demo application. But yeah, I hope that this really helps you out. Is there anything else that we haven't tested on here? I guess we could switch to another account, make sure that it works. We're going to switch to test to account. Now we should see that there are no tickets here because with this other account, I have not minted any tickets. But notice that the address changed, the amount of ETH that I have is changed. And yeah, I think that's mostly. Oh, I could mint a ticket and then cancel it to show you one more thing. So if I hit reject, we'll see our little error action rejected come up down here. So this is our error component. And if you just click on it, it'll go away, right? And of course, if they were connecting and something else happened, right? They didn't reject it, but maybe, let's say that the chain, I don't know, there's something happened. Maybe the contract doesn't exist or something like that. And I hit confirm. Of course, the transaction wouldn't go through. So we'd probably get an error in that case as well. But that catches the error and displays it to the user. So there's pretty much everything in this demo that you need for a fully functioning dApp. Great. With that out of the way, I think what we're going to do now is we're going to discard. No, we're going to keep these changes here. Now we'll just do it again. We'll go ahead and discard these changes. Better yet, let's just copy this contract address. So I can go ahead and switch branches here, discard the changes. And what we'll do now is we'll switch over to one of our other branches. So let's go take a look at what that branch is called real quick. So we've got view all branches. Let's go for add React UI components. Well, there goes my copy paste. So let's do git checkout add React UI components. So our code just switched out on us, right? And I think, we also need to run npm install. Let's also make sure that we're on NVM 20. We should be, but this kind of workshop requires that you be on node version 20, just in case I haven't mentioned that yet. And we'll do an npm install. So we need to run an npm install because this version of the workshop has slightly different package.json. So we're using, instead of MetaMask SDK, which kind of requires you to do all that work that I showed you before, we're using SDK-React UI. So let's see how this project differs, right? So one, we don't have that use MetaMask hook anymore. What I've done is I pulled out just the parts that were kind of global state from the application, which are like the erroring and when someone mints a contract. And I've just pulled out that global state and put it in its own provider here. In our components, we no longer have a switch network button because the SDK will do that for you. Yeah, and by not having that hook, right, we saved quite a bit of code. This is only 40 lines of code, and it pertains to our actual global React state versus the wallet state, keeping that wallet state in check. But if we go over to app.tsx, we'll notice that there's a little bit more code here. So the cool thing about the React components library that we give you is that you can use WAGMI hooks with it. So we've got a WAGMI config, and then we pull in JSON RPC provider and injected connector. So what we're going to do here is we're going to, those same SDK options that we would have needed for doing all of the work on our own with the JavaScript SDK, we're just going to create like a little variable here to pass those into the MetaMask UI provider. So when you import this package.json right here, the first thing that you want to do is you want to go over to your app.tsx. You want to pull in that MetaMask UI provider, and you want to create some options for it and pass it in. Now, you could just be done there, right? You could be done there and the SDK will work, okay? But what we've done instead here is we've actually pulled in some WAGMI hooks to be able to give it a little bit more information about what we need. So we have this WAGMI config, and you can see our config here for that. This gives us the ability to tell us, tell it what chains that we want to support. And this is kind of an alternate step that you don't have to do with this library, but I like to do because I want to make sure that they're on the right chain, right? I could have not done this at all, and the SDK would still work. I would just be using this one provider and this one options variable. But instead, I've pulled in the WAGMI config. I've set up the Linea chain. I've told it what the JSON RPC provider is for that. I just got this from Infura. That's my Infura ID. Let's make sure that that's the correct one. I have to pull this off screen for a moment. All right. So let's go back over to that. Oops. Yep, I needed to update that. And this really should be coming from our environment variable file. I'll update that so that you don't have to do that. So you can just plug it into your environment variable file and it'll work. So when you pull down this repo, that should be there already. Great. So with the WAGMI config, it just allows us to pass in some additional configurations, and you'll see the reason for that here in a moment. So let's go ahead and go back to our README real quick. And what we're going to do is we're going to run npm run build. And we're going to deploy to Linea testnet. And we're going to watch our lib config. We can see that it's updated that with the deployed contract address. Wonderful. And then finally, we will run the dev testnet command. Perfect. And just basically, let's make sure, again, you can always come in here to application, just make sure that this is kind of wiped out. Connect, we can connect to the desktop. And then from here, you've got, active chains. So here's our Linea chain. Hopefully this will show up better as Linea testnet sooner than later, but your user can come in here and switch their chain. You can also set it up to where, if they're on the wrong chain, they'll get a switch network button to be able to switch back to the right chain. But let's go ahead and move on to the next the next repo, which shows you how to use Web3 onboard. And what we'll do here is let's copy this again. I'm going to put this over on the side so that I don't have to do this again. All right, so we're just going to discard these changes here. I don't know why I have changes here. Oh, we want to keep those. We'll just set that up again when we get back on the other chain. So let's go ahead and run git checkout add Web3 onboard. All right, and let's go ahead and check out what we have set up here, right? So first thing we would want to look at is the package.json. Notice that we are running Web3 onboard MetaMask, Web3 onboard React. Those are the two packages that we want to install. The Web3 onboard MetaMask, you need to install the alpha, and let's actually go ahead and check that real quick. So let's just copy this, and we'll go over to npm, and we'll paste it in here, and see what the most recent alpha is, and alpha 4 is the latest one, so that's the one we want to be using. Again, these are developer previews, so if you're going to be using them, don't just use the latest version here, go with the alpha version. It'll make sure that you're getting the absolute kind of latest code. That's the only point around that. So in our app.tsx, a little bit more kind of setup here, but it's kind of the same. We have this Ethereum Linea kind of testnet information set up. We've imported the Web3 onboard provider and initializer, and the Web3 onboard MetaMask SDK. We have our MetaMask SDK options as usual. We set up this MetaMask SDK wallet, right? And we want to pass this into the Web3 onboard wallets option, right? When you're using Web3 onboard, you can set up a number of different wallets. You can use Web3 onboard and set up those wallets, but if you want to use MetaMask SDK versus just regular MetaMask, you do need to pull in this specific package here, and then use this MetaMask SDK function, pass in your options for the SDK, and then pass that into wallets. That's all you have to do. And now you have this Web3 onboarder provider. So, you know, all of the components down here will have access to that. And then on the navigation page, let's go take a look at that. So on the navigation page, again, let's go ahead and do an npm install too. That might help. We'll do an npm install to make sure we got the right packages showing up. And we need to get I need to put my API key in here again because I forgot that again. So in our blockchain environment variable file, because I'm switching branches, I have to keep updating this Infura key. Looks like we're good there. Oh no, it carried over for me. And then, yeah, so we should be good to go. And then our contract, I don't remember the contract from before, so I'll just go ahead and deploy another contract again. Well, we don't even need to deploy the contract. We can just go ahead and run this. I'll go ahead and do it. So I'll just deploy that contract. That will update our config. So we should be good to go there. And then we can run dev testnet again. Oh, but we were looking at the navigation file. So now we've got our npm installed. Now we can see that Web3 onboard React is being found. And all we're doing here is we're using this use connect wallet hook from Web3 onboard React, and we can pull in wallet so we can have information. We can get wallet.address, all that kind of stuff. And all we're doing is we're awaiting this connect. On click, we're awaiting this connect. So while it's connected, it equals await connect, and then we have a disconnect, right? So a connect and a disconnect. This button will bring up the Web3 onboard kind of modal, if you will. So again, what did we need to do in order to set up Web3 onboard to be able to support multiple wallets, including the SDK? Well, we've pulled in these two packages here. We went to our app.tsx and we have pulled in these two imports. We've created these two variables here. We've instantiated the MetaMask SDK as a wallet. We've passed that and the chains into this initializer here. And in wallets, we pass in the MetaMask SDK wallet. We put in the Web3 onboard provider. And now with that in place, we can go over to our navigation page here and simply call await connect. Of course, you need to pull in, the connect and disconnect functions here, as well as you want to pull in a wallet because you want to be able to potentially have access to, the address, chain ID, and all that kind of stuff, right? So we've now run the dev testnet command, which means we're running live. We can open this up and kind of close that down. I always like to, again, just go in here and make sure that we have cleared out any cache. And now when we hit connect, we get the nice little Web3 onboard modal. And when we click MetaMask, we will get the SDK. We'll connect with it. And boom, we're connected. And this gives us this little thing down here, which has, our address, the amount, all the things that we could currently need to do. We could connect to another wallet. We could potentially select different chains here. It knows that Linea testnet is the only one I want them on, so it's the only option. But this is really cool. This is probably the option that you want to go with if you want to connect to multiple wallets. And with that, we can hit disconnect, connect again, right? It's just going to do the same thing over again. We can connect with MetaMask Mobile here. Let's try that out real quick. Now it's connected. Go down here. So you can see that I was connected with Ethereum when I started, and it gives me the ability to connect to Linea testnet now. So it'll switch. It'll give me another prompt here so I can switch network, get myself right back on the right chain. And now, I can do the things I need to on this application now that I'm connected to the right chain. So I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect here. And start to wrap up the workshop. I know that's a lot, but basically you have the MetaMask SDK. Again, that kind of goes with the main branch here in our repo. You've got the SDK React UI that goes with the Add React UI Components branch. And then you've got the Web3 onboard, and you can see examples of that in the Add Web3 onboard branch. So between those three branches, no matter which one you want to try, go for it. If you have any questions, you can DM me on Twitter at HTTPjunkie, on Telegram at HTTPjunkie. I will take time out of my day to help you out if needed. But this is great. Hope to see everyone out at the hackathons. Hope to see you in my DMs. Hope to see you using the MetaMask SDK, using it in better ways than kind of a contrived app like this, but really kind of pushing its limits, giving us feedback and everything. And yeah, deploying on Linea. It's all these are all great tools to be able to use. They give your users more options, your users lower gas rates, and overall allow you to do all the same things with regular Ethereum, and the most options to connect to wallets, potentially using the MetaMask SDK. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the workshop, and I'll see you guys later.